right, I'm John Alexander, Grayson County, Virginia, and we're going to learn how to make a whisk broom this morning. And I learned broom making at Berea College back in the 70s. First thing I want to do is a little bit of history. This is a broom corn plant. And you plant it, you get one of these for every seed. It gets about 12 feet tall. And you get enough of these, you can make yourself a broom. Not hard to grow, just takes time. Now Ben Franklin supposedly is the one that brought the seed back from France and got the broom industry going in America. Old Ben was a busy man, but everything seems to check out that he was telling the truth. Now what I'm getting ready to do today is to take the broom corn and make a whisk broom. And this part here, let me show you, called the stalk. This is called the knuckle. From here to here, the kids always like this is called the hurl. And then the end of the broom corn plant's called the sweep. It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? And I'm just going to put enough together to make me a broom. Now in the old days, lots of times it was the lady of the house or grandma that made the broom. But then up around late 1800s, early 1900s, even up to 1950s and 60s, broom making was a sideline business for a lot of families, and it's how they made extra money for the family. In Rockbridge County, where I'm from, I found 5 families that had all the broom making equipment. Their uncle or granddad or somebody used to make brooms. Nobody still made brooms with that equipment, but that's how they made a lot of extra income. So you can see we're just putting these up, trying to even up the sweep in. Now I'm going to use wire to tie this together. In the old days, wire would have been too expensive. But by the time I'm making them, and wire makes a tighter broom, so it's about a 50 cents worth of broom corn. And get the wire here, put it right through the middle, and twist her over. And this table I'm using to tie it on is just a traditional tying table. Nothing fancy. My son Aaron actually made this one for me. Now we've got some old vintage broom making equipment, but it's a little heavy to haul around, and this is a lot simpler table. And you just get that wire real tight. One thing you don't want on your wire, on your broom, is a loose bundle of broom corn. Now for sweeping purposes, this thing would work right now, but we want it to look a little better. So we're going to put a handle on it. And to put the handle on, we're going to use the stalk of the plant. And tap that wire down so it doesn't stick you in the hand. Now if you're making one of these, first thing you got to make is a little loop of string like that, because that's what's going to tie it all together. And any string that's strong enough, you can make a broom with. And this is a nylon string here. In the old days, they would have used a waxed, like a linen string. In the old days, they'd actually used cordage that they made probably from poplar bark or something like that. And you pull that string real tight. There you go. If I was a musician, I'd play music while I made a broom. And now we're just going to take the stalks, and these have been soaked in water so I can bend them. And we're going to put them in under the string like that. Now for you people watching this, do you want an odd number or an even number of stalks? And if you're a mathematician, you might know that answer, but usually in weaving you want an odd number. Now I learned to make this broom from Johnny Reed, and he learned to make it from a gentleman who had actually grown up at a Shaker village in Kentucky. They had a huge broom industry back in the 1800s. It's a couple more stalks and we'll be ready to show you what's next. Now, in the old fairy tales, the magic number is usually 3, so I wrap it 3 times. And there's, alrighty, and then the broom knife. This knife's about 100 years old. The gentleman who I bought this from, I bought it from his granddaughter. He actually learned to make brooms at the Virginia School for the Blind in Stanton. Used to be a trade that was taught to the blind students. I'm just trimming off those stalks so it'll lay flat. And now we're going to bend them over. And just go over one. Now when I was first starting out, I would count the stalks. I don't do that anymore. Because if I don't have an odd number, I can just split a fat stalk and make it into two. And that works. Alright, now we got the stalks bent over. And we're going to go 3 times again. And again, you want it real tight. Alrighty. And then you're going to do an over-under weave. Now, you can do any weaving pattern you want, but I'm just going to stick to over-under. Makes a great handle. It'll last a long, long time. We got one of these hanging up in the kitchen, I know, 20 plus years old. Now, broom corn is a natural material. If you get it wet, you need to hang it up where it'll dry out so it won't mold on you. And you get a rhythm to it. A lot of people ask, well, how long does it take you to make one broom? It's actually easier to set up and make 20 of these as it is to make one. And the other question that is often asked is, how much do you sell them for? And I usually always let the students figure that out if I'm in a school setting. I love it when a student says, well, I'd charge $50 for that. And you see the weaving pattern? It's over under, makes a nice tight grip. It's the same as the pattern on the knife. And that knife blade, that broom corn's been on that knife for 30 years. So it's a real tough material. It'll last a long time. Now, some of the broom superstitions, when you move to a new house, you never take your old brooms, because you take your old problems with you. And I love that superstition. That must have been made up by a broom maker. He wanted to sell more brooms. Alright, now we're getting ready to tie it off and finish this one up. And it's the same thing. I'm going to go around once real tight, pull real hard, and here's where this little fella comes in. You got a little loop there made of the same string, and I'm going to pull very hard. You don't want your broom falling apart on you. Alrighty, last pull, and now we're going to put your thumb on it real tight and cut it, and don't let go. And you're going to thread that loop just like a needle. Okay, and then you're going to snug it up, and then you're going to jerk it, and that takes that thread right under all that tight string so it won't come apart. Yeah, now you're going to trim these. Actually, I'm going to trim that with a knife. There you go. And you just, this knife you keep really sharp so you hardly have to push. If you're making one of these and you got to push real hard, you got to stop and sharpen your knife. 'Cause the old story that a dull knife cuts you better, worse than a sharp knife is true, because you're pushing harder. And you trim a few off, but that's all right. I'll get the stragglers out. Now I gotta trim this so I'll have a handle. Let me stand up here for a second. Alrighty. Okie doke. And I'll finish the rest off with the pliers. Now, the other good thing about broom making is you don't waste anything. I'm not going to throw all this stuff away. Now there's your little whisk. Got the loop to hang it by, and it'll work. It'll clean off just as good as anything. Now the old broom makers would have never trimmed this even. This is the sweep. They would have left that on because it sweeps up the fine dirt even better. So I'm going to hang it right there. Now these I will save. The longer pieces I'll make a children's broom with, and the shorter pieces I'll make one of these with. It's called a cake tester. You break a straw off and stick it in your cake. If it comes out clean, your cake dough is done. If it comes out with dough sticking to it, then you need to bake it some more. And this one I'll show you. I was doing a craft show near Charlottesville in the 1980s, and a lady come up and said, "Where's your vegetable scrubbers?" I didn't know what she was talking about, and her grandmother used to make these. Very similar to the one I just made, except it has this part sticking out more. Potatoes and carrots get scrubbed with that. And when you shuck corn, you got all that corn silk to get off, this sweeps the silk right off. And that's how I learned to make a vegetable scrubber. And now we're going to make a cobweb sweeper. It's just a broom with one layer. I don't use any wire on this one. I'm going to show you real quick the same kind of weaving. And I get asked all kinds of questions. If our brooms work is one question, and I always say they work if you do, because everything we make is made to be used. And my great aunt Draper told me this story when she was a little girl, would have been about 1890s. The broom maker came to their farm and they traded him the broom corn they grew for the brooms that he made. So they bartered for their brooms. Now, let's get back to broom making. I just got a nice strong stick. I got the same string. I want to keep it tight, except this time I'm using the end that has the stalk on it. And it's the same principle. You just load them on here until you go all the way around the stick. Now this is the simplest kind of broom to make with a stick, but it's the same strategy, same method as making a bigger broom like a house broom. We'll do that on another occasion. And you're just putting them on there like that. These are great for getting behind the refrigerator, for getting cobwebs up high. I only had one lady ever bring hers back to me, said she wasn't happy with it. And that's because the cat messed with it. I can't control that. So, we got more stalks, one more. You want to cover the stick up really well. Alrighty. Same principle. Get it nice and tight. Now if you're left-handed, it would just be facing that way. You don't have to have a table like this to make a broom. If you think about it, you can just tie your string to a post or something like that. Anything you can pull tight. Now we're going to do the same thing. Over, under. Got the old string creaking this morning. I looked up in an old newspaper one time that they wanted to hire a broom maker in this broom factory. That fella was going to get 17 cents an hour. Big money back then, probably. And the same weaving pattern, I'm just doing over, under, pulling each one tight. You get your hand and your feet coordinated, it goes pretty quick. All right, and we're going to wrap it. Same way we did the whisk broom. And get my little string here. Whoop, it's hooked on my knife. There we go. And broom making's a pretty easy craft to get into. There's not a lot of overhead, not a lot of expensive tools to get. Some people just want to make one, that's fine, but over the years I've probably had 15-20 people that have really gotten into it. Pull tight, the same thing. Cut it. Thread it through that loop. Well, if my fingers are working. Come on now. There we go. And just thread it right there. Jerk it out from under. And now the trimming begins. And then only one more step to do on this one. And that's sew it. Alrighty. And to sew it, I'm going to get out my broom maker's needle. This needle is over 100 years old too, but any needle would work. And same thing, any thread will work as long as it's strong enough. I'm going to get out yeah, I'm going to add some color to this one. So here we go. This is just a woven hemp string. Yeah. Now, you ever heard the expression tie a knot and hold on? I think that might have been a broom maker's expression, because that's what you do first. Tie a knot. And then, just like anything, you thread your needle. And I just hold it tight. Don't need a clamp for this one. Put it through. And like any craft, you can get as artistic as you want with it. Everybody has their own style. I know about 20 or 30 broom makers, and I can pretty much tell who made which one by the style of stitching and weaving and all that. Now you're just going to go in and out all the way across once. Come back the same place. Whoops. Well, let me push that back in there. Things do happen sometimes. There we go. Now sometimes in some big brooms, you got more time in the stitching than you do in the actual making of the broom. If you grow your own broom corn, you got way more time in the getting the seed off the plant than you do in the broom making. Alrighty, last one. Pull it tight and cut it. Save this because that's what you're going to hang it by later. Don't waste anything in broom making, and then you clean your cobwebs. Now that's two of the simplest brooms, the whisk broom and the cobweb sweep. And we'll sweep more with you next time.